All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome to This Week in Pop Culture, the show in which we give you the goings on in the past said week in the world of pop culture, whether we're talking about film and TV news, whether we're talking about sports news, theater news, tech news, daily news, and the like. We try to bring you up to speed so that way you are not left in the wind. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And of course, I'm not going to be alone in talking about the said topics that happened this past said week. So without further ado, I want to welcome my co-host, my partner in crime, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, a.k.a. Spills. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, everybody? How's it going? Remember, this week, don't get in an argument with your family. Just be like, ha ha ha, you
Yeah,
crazy. And just keep it
yeah.
moving. Don't get in no argument with nobody because it's not worth
Just
it. Don't
don't.
do it.
Just a suggestion,
Just,
no politics, no
it's a life hack.
religion. I'm gonna take a step further and say, no monopoly, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh,
Because
Taboo was the one in
I've
my
seen
house.
plenty of relationships end on monopoly. But with that spills, we had quite a bit that happened this past said week. Of course, chief of which is going to be us talking about what happened this past said week in the NBA, because there's an interesting trend that has been happening in the NBA, which I love to get your thoughts on. But we're going to touch on a few more things before we get there. So whether we're talking some streaming news as well as some film and TV news. So without further ado, shall we dive in?
Let's get it.
All right, excellent. So I'll begin first before I dive into the first story of folks, is just to give you a reminder that well, after this episode airs, I will be putting up some timestamps so that way you're able to skip forward or backtrack to your heart's content on whatever we talk about with the said stories this past said week and what our thoughts are on those said stories. So keep that in mind. Of course, we appreciate you joining us live if you are, but if you're catching us after the fact, just know that we will also be posting the timestamps for you to, skip forward to whatever said story you want to, check out. So with that, we're going to get into the first story. And as I mentioned at the top, that first story is going to be in our stream and chill talk, as one show did get renewed for another season, and that show, of course, being Twisted Metal. So let me bring that up now. So this was via confirmation by Variety on Tuesday that the series Twisted Metal had been renewed for a third season by Peacock. Based, of course, on the PlayStation game of the same name, the series stars Anthony Mackie, Stephanie Beatrice, Joe Cianoa, and Will Arnett. Per NBC Universal, the second season, which premiered in July, tallied 993 million minutes viewed to date, making it Peacock's second biggest returning original scripted season, which, of course, likely explains the renewal of the series for season 3. According to the story, Michael Jonathan Smith, who co-created the series and had served as showrunner for the first 2 seasons, will be exiting the show and will be replaced by David Reed, who will board the series as showrunner and executive producer for season 3 under an overall deal with Sony Pictures Television. So Spills, your thoughts on Twisted Metal being renewed for season 3? I don't know if we talked about this, but do you watch Twisted Metal? I know you are. You are a gamer.
I played the games many years ago. This is kind of surreal that they
Yeah, I
have the
know, aging
third
yourself,
season
right?
because I feel like I don't I remember they were talking about getting the show, but for them to already have 3 seasons is amazing. Good for them.
Yeah,
Anthony Mackie and the other actors that you were talking about, I love them and their respective things. Anthony Mackie, obviously in the 8
Marvel
Mile
movies.
fame, and the
Well,
Marvel
that too.
movies. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
Papa Doc, he's Clarence and his parents have a real good marriage. So
Indeed,
and
indeed.
then the lady from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I really love her stuff. So She's really cool. So you know, I love that the games. They were very fun games. You know, running around, you know, racing and blowing people up. It's demolition derby for the 2000s. Y'all don't remember it because they don't really have games like that anymore. It's not really where we do co-op games as much. I think Battle Ball or what the game where they play soccer with the cars. That's the closest thing that we
Oh
have to
yeah,
that
yeah,
right now.
sure, sure, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, that's the only thing that they really had that's close to that because everything's either a shooter or RPG nowadays. So
Yeah.
maybe they'll come back out with something like that. But just cool to see. You know, good for them for getting another season. From what I've seen, the things like the clips from the show, I've liked it. Maybe I'll check it out. You know, most of the time I'm pretty busy, ladies and gentlemen, but I do check things out periodically. So maybe we'll give this a run. With the when the third season comes out, so I'm guessing in another 18 months. So who knows how long it'll come to take to
Yeah,
come
no,
out.
I hear you. I hear you. I mean, I'll say this is that as you said, good on them for now having a getting a third season renewed. There's so much on television these days that I'll be honest, it's hard to keep track sometimes of all the stuff that is available to us. We have as viewers, we kind of get spoiled with the embarrassment of options that we have. I mean, we have what? We have the Boys series that in and of itself has its own spinoff with Gen V. We have I mean, just recently we had the I don't know if you're familiar with the horror film the Creep, but they had a anthology type of series called the Creep Tapes that are following the events within that universe, and because the films only touch on some of kind of the vignettes of stories that he has with other individuals, and that series actually delves into each of those particular experiences that he has with people, various people that he's come across or interacted. Um, we still have the Lord of the Rings prequel series that has had 2 seasons thus far, and man, the amount of detail and effort that's put into that show, it's cinematic caliber and quality. We also have the It series, which is ongoing right now. And if anyone is not watching that right now, what are you doing? Because if you're a horror fan and you enjoy the It series, that series is incredible. The Welcome to Derry series dives into the universe that has been established in the newly formulated It film franchise. And I mean, that series delves with some characters in the past within this world of Derry. And then it comes on every Sunday. The series thus far has been, outstanding. And that's, currently ongoing right now. You have the what is it? The Anne Rice cinema. Well, I guess you can say television universe with the Interview with the Vampire. What is the series that they have? The Wayfair Witches series, and then most recently, shout out to showrunner John Lee Hancock. We have Telemasca, which is kind of that spy related organization that's within that universe that observes a lot of the immortal different characters that are within that Anne Rice television universe. So as I said, there's just an embarrassment of shows that are out there. I know Twisted Metal is on my radar to check out. I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical just at the idea of turning that into a series. And I'm normally that way when it comes to video game shows anyway, because they haven't always had the best track record. We haven't had the best luck with them all the time when we're talking about films, and that has even carried over to television, or I should say to streaming as well. Because I mean, as much as I was excited, Spillman, about the Halo series,
Oh yeah,
talking about the
and they
Halo
come into
series,
PlayStation. They come into
yeah.
PlayStation.
But
Shout
I'm saying, as
outs.
much as excited as I was about the Halo series, I don't feel like it was executed the way that it could have been. There was a lot of potential with that, and I feel like they kind of dropped the ball with it. But to my surprise, Fallout for anyone who's fans of the Fallout game, that series, whether you're a fan of the game or not a fan of the game, that series has that first season was awesome, and I'm looking forward to the new season. So I'll check it out. It's on my queue, as
You're
many
right.
other shows are on my queue, and I just haven't, hit play yet, but I will. But what about you guys out there? Those of you that are fans of the game, or those who have had an opportunity to check out the seasons thus far, are you excited about season 3 of Twisted Metal? You can let us know down below in the comments. So we're going to switch gears to our film and TV talk. As we did have a late actor who did receive his star on the Walk of Fame, and that's, of course, Mr. Boseman. So let me dive into that, as I said, with our film and TV talk, uh, and bring that up for you guys now. So on Thursday, late actor Chadwick Boseman was honored with a star on the Walk of Fame. Happening 5 years after the actor's passing, the ceremony saw not only the late actor's widow, Taylor Simone, but also a number of the late actor's colleagues on hand as well, such as his Ma Rainey's Black Bottom co-star, Viola Davis, his Black Panther co-stars, Michael B. Jordan and Letitia Wright, as well as Black Panther director Ryan Coogler and Disney CEO Bob Iger. Spills, your thoughts on Boseman receiving his star on the Walk of Fame?
I think that this is more than overdue. Obviously, um, Chadwick Boseman passed away so suddenly in 2021. Um, Actually, I think that was 2020. He had passed
2020,
away.
yeah. It's been 5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
2020.
2020. It's been 5 years.
Crazy
Obviously,
because
I
I remember
mentioned,
it's crazy it's been that long already, but go ahead.
yeah, 5 years is just blown by. Like the pandemic has really warped all of our sense of time. But I feel like really it did, like when you talk about stuff that happened then, because it felt like such a fever dream in my personal life, and I'm sure everyone else's lives,
Sure.
things just zoomed past. So, for it to be 5 years later and for him to be getting this posthumously is great. Obviously, I feel like he, low key, when you look at his resume, I don't know nobody black that's famous that he didn't play. He played James Brown,
Right?
Thurgood Marshall,
Right.
Jackie Robinson. I feel like those three dudes, like, what else is there? He played Black Panther, the first big black Marvel superhero, the most first big mainstream Marvel superhero that was a black. So, hats off to Chadwick Boseman. He was a great actor. Just great. It's sad that he passed the way that he did. But definitely deserving of a star. I don't see, if he doesn't make it, who deserves a star on the Walk of Fame? But he definitely, in the short
Absolutely.
amount of time, one of the great careers of all time. Like the amount of bangers he put out, he had critical acclaim, box office acclaim. We can't say anything wrong about his career.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And when we're talking about, as you say, I mean, you already touched on this. So I don't feel like I need to kind of get into further emphasis on that. But just the body of work of everything, as you said, of icons that he had an opportunity to play and play them well, and to also be able to be versatile enough to not only do something in which you have those kind of biopics where you're playing these larger than life real life individuals, but it doesn't get any bigger when we're talking about black figures in comics of Black Panther, and being able to bring that to life and have that fully realized to the screen. Well, it was quite an achievement. So yeah, like as you said, if he didn't get a star on the Walk of Fame, what necessarily is the 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 credentials needed in order to sustain earn that achievement. So it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to receive it in person, but um, still terrific to have his memory honored. And can I just really comment on that? Of I mean, you common it's not unheard of to have like your colleagues come to your a walk of fame ceremony, getting your star, but to have the Disney CEO also come to that ceremony, that that's a real that's kind of surreal to think about, to have other folks at that at that stand, or at that of those roles going to Walk of Fame ceremonies. A lot of times you're just seeing, maybe it's a director that the actor worked with, of course their family and friends, and maybe some other actors, some co-stars that they had. So uh, rest in peace, again, to Chadwick Boseman. It's crazy, as I said, to think that it's been 5 years thus far. Because I remember when that news dropped. I remember it like it was yesterday, and it's surreal to think that that was 5 years ago. But as you said, the pandemic was for sure a fever dream. So much has happened, I feel like, in that 5 year span, um, with how our world is different. And we talked about it a lot on the show, whether we're talking about how people consume their content. The way that has happened has forever been changed because of the pandemic. How people uh, get their goods. We talked about on the show too, how we have some restaurants that are you know getting rid of some of their locations because maybe people aren't going to those restaurants, or they're not going to those locations as often as they normally would have prior to the pandemic. Whether we're talking about
Hmm.
Wendy's, whether we're talking about Starbucks. I mean, prior to the pandemic, you could find a Starbucks almost on every corner, and then you would also see a new Starbucks being built almost on every corner. You're like, dang, you building another Starbucks? But now, like, it's weird to think we're in a day and age where Starbucks is cutting back on some of those locations. So, and even with other places, with our pharmacies too. We have it with CVS, fewer CVSs, which is a bummer
I think
because
Rite Aid just went completely under. Didn't Rite Aid go completely under?
yeah, Rite Aid is no
They were
more.
selling drugs. How you go out of business? You selling drugs, ladies and
Hey
gentlemen.
yo, hey yo, but I'm
They
just
sell
saying.
drugs. Incredible.
But I'm just saying, to be in a day and age where so many of the things that were commonplace are no longer commonplace, and that a lot of that can be attributed to the way life has changed post pandemic. But be that as it may, again, condolences. Even after all these years, condolences to family and friends for Chadwick Boseman. Incredible honor to have him, get his star on the Walk of Fame. So cool to be able to see that, and cool to see, those folks that were on hand to honor him in that ceremony. So now we're going to get into our main topic today, which, as you saw in the background, deals with just a little bit of sports things that happened this past said week. As we hit the hardwood for our sports cooler talk, to talk some highlights of the news stories that occurred across the NBA this past said week. On the uh, on the unfortunate side of things, there was a steady slew of injuries to key players, such as Giannis Antetokounmpo, who sprained his groin in a loss against the Cavs on Monday. We had Victor Wembanyama, who had been sidelined thanks to a strained left calf that he sustained in a loss against the Warriors last Friday. And then we also, and this happened just recently, that it was announced by Wake Forest yesterday that an alumni of theirs, who was a six-man winner within the NBA, had passed away, and that's none other than Rodney Rogers. He had passed away officially on Friday at the age of 54. And then On a more positive note, on Tuesday, we had Cade Cunningham, who continued his offensive tear with 25 points, 10 assists, and 6 rebounds, helping the Pistons to secure their 11th straight win. Also on Tuesday, which I'm sure Spills would appreciate, history was made as LeBron James made his season debut for a league record 23rd season. And when it was all said and done, he was able to pass Reggie Miller for 6 on the all-time three-pointers list. So, and then, of course, lastly, we also crossed the conference in the East. The Pacers secured their second win of the season. So, Spillman, your thoughts on some of the trends of injuries that we had this week, that we're continuing to see, going into this week, even in the weeks that preceded it. Your thoughts on, of course, some of the stories about teams that are continuing their momentum. I know you want to talk some LeBron, so I'll give you the space to do that, and then, of course, the unfortunate passing of Rodney.
So let's start with the GOAT. We can start with the GOAT.
Oh
Obviously
boy.
23 seasons, 21 All NBA selections, 21 All NBA selections, ladies and gentlemen. That means you're one of the best 15 basketball players for 2 decades. That ain't never happened. That's never going to happen again. No one's ever going to make 21 All NBA teams. And Brandon may not like this, but no one is going to say that he was honorarily on any All NBA teams because the man is averaged 25, 7, and 7 his career. If you average 25, 7, and 7 in a season, most people say, yo, that's the best season you ever have and ever probably will have. To do it for 2 decades is crazy. Um, I think that obviously, as a Lakers fan, we're happy to see him back, but we're just moving forward. I think that these injuries are indicative. Speaking of LeBron returning, we hope that he can make it to all the games this year because we want to see 22 All NBA teams. So he can only miss like I think 4 more games and
Yeah,
still be eligible for the end of the year. Um,
all NBA.
well, accolades. That's the word that we want. Any of the accolades at the end of the year.
Yeah,
But with guys like Giannis and Victor Wembanyama getting injuries, those are horrible. We hate to see that, but the game is played a completely different way. They're asking people that's 7 and 8 and 9 feet tall to run like they're little guards, and even the guards get hurt. We've seen Halliburton get hurt trying to do all these crazy step backs that used to be illegal. The step backs that they do now, you step 2 feet in, step 2 feet out. It's not the hokey pokey. Why are we letting them people do that?
not the hokey pokey.
You gonna let the legs blow up. Their legs are blowing up because they're doing stuff that you're not supposed to do. So to me, I just think it's we just all gotta maybe slow the game down. Victor really needs to work on just being 7-7 and dunking on people because he can do it. We seen him do it to Draymond. Draymond was in his face screaming, and he said, "You know what, little dude, I'm about to put you in the rim," and that's what he did. So I think that we need more of that in the game. Less of the hokey pokey step backs. I know that the 3 point revolution has changed everything and we're moving the game, but bodies ain't supposed to move like that.
I would take it a step further and just say that the season is the longest that it has been. And we talked about it on this show. When we're talking about the postseason, I remember a time where every single round was not best of 7 games.
Hmm.
I don't feel like you need to have best of 7 games for every single round. For the finals,
Hmm.
maybe. For the conference finals, maybe. But I would arguably say for the first round and even for the semifinals for the conference semifinals, I don't feel like it's necessary to do best of 7. We also have this tournament because they had to help sustain interest in earlier in the season, not just from viewers. But they also had to sustain player interest by creating this tournament, that we have at the beginning of the season that I feel is unnecessary.
Yep.
Um, but by adding all these games, you're putting more pressure on your players' bodies to be able to sustain that level of activity over such a long period of time, and in doing so, while you have players that are more athletic, you're putting forcing them to put more strain in their bodies, and that's why you continue to see a lot of these tissue related tears and sprains, because I feel like it's more of a overuse issue than it is an issue of the players not being in shape, or the players not having the ability. It's just that you're asking them to do it over a more prolonged period of time than perhaps was the case maybe even a decade ago or 15 years ago.
Yeah. Just to move on to Rodney Rogers.
Yeah,
Um, obviously we remember him from the Suns.
yeah,
That's where I think of him mostly as a Sun. I think he might have played for, yeah, the Suns is where I really remember him. In that 99, 2000. He was with the Clippers, but then nobody care about them then.
at that
Um,
time, yeah.
he was a great player, one of the greats out of Wake Forest. Not the biggest school, but a pretty decent basketball powerhouse.
Yeah,
He did well in the NBA. I just feel like this is a sad day, but he did
because
injure
54
himself.
is young, especially when we're considering kind of this day and age, when we're talking about the science that is available. That's unfortunate to have someone pass away at 54.
Yeah, but I feel like this is not just a regular 54. He had a spinal injury
Yeah, it was
about 10
indicative of
years
that.
ago.
It
So,
was, yeah.
unfortunately, once you injure your spine, you're not going to hang around too long. So, um, shouts to his family, shouts to the Wake Forest and all of his NBA teams that loved him and rooted for him over the years.
Yeah, because I
And,
mean, he was a journeyman. I mean, we
yes, for
you
sure.
touched on the Phoenix Suns, but I mean, he had a stint with the Pelicans. He had a stint with the Sixers, with the Nets. I remember him with the Nets. But as you said, he was also with the Clippers. So, but honestly, when I think of Rodgers, I think of him with the Nets, not necessarily with the Suns. But yeah, as you said, I second what you said. Condolences to his family and friends. It's always unfortunate to have someone pass away, but like I said, especially in this day and age where we have the technology available to us that we do, to pass away at 54 is incredibly sad. So again, condolences to his family. But considering what we have ahead of us, I know we talked on LeBron and the achievements that he has, the idea of a lot of these injuries. Do you feel like would you agree that we would need to cut back on some of those components that we have in the NBA season, or do you have like would you think of like another solution to kind of prevent a lot of these injuries, this trend of injuries that we're seeing among a lot of players?
I think it's the style of play. I don't think it's as it is the amount of games that they're playing, but
Mm.
they would be playing those same number of days. Like, people get hurt in practice. I know practice is not a game, but they're still using their bodies every day like that. I feel like it's just the style of play, the
Shooting
hop
all the
step,
threes and shooting
but
all
not
these
just the
threes.
threes, but like the way that the bodies are moving, like to move your momentum forward and then suddenly move it backwards. The body's not a rubber band, and over time that's what
There's
these a
going to be
lot of
some
these
wear and tear.
injuries are happening.
Yeah,
It's the constant back and forth. You can't there's no the human body is only so strong. You can't do those kind of moves. Like, if you notice, guys like LeBron, he has his three is he doesn't really do step backs as much. He does like a
a pull
set
up.
shot three, a pull
Yeah.
up set shot kind of thing. Steph Curry does he does the step backs too a little bit, but not as much. But I feel like the
So did
guys who are
Harden. Harden was is well known for that. So and your boy
yeah
Doncic. So I don't
yeah
know.
Yeah,
You might.
we worry about that. We worry about that. But the body is just not built for that. But he's in much better shape this year because he's not down there in Dallas looking like AD. AD is always dinner now. He always eats dinner. So
Oh
yeah, I
no,
don't know.
no, no, no! When I was talking about those injury that injury your injury prone AD back when he was on the Lakers, you didn't want to hear, but now you
He
on
won us a
board
chip.
though
I
now,
don't
right?
care what he does
You on
down
board
there.
now,
We
right?
used up his good years. We
See how that
used up his
happened?
good years,
See how
ladies
that
and
happened,
gentlemen.
folks? How quickly you jump ship?
That's right. No, I just said the man looks heavy. He looks like he's enjoying himself. He looks like he's sad eating. He looks like he's sad eating. I feel like
Wow, not
he's down
sad.
there in Dallas. Dallas is a fun place I hear, but it's also a place where the most obese people in America live. Like it's one of the top five heaviest cities in the country. I think New Orleans is number one. New Orleans or Detroit, but I digress. I just feel like they just need to do better with their conditioning in Dallas. I mean, that's why they fired their general manager recently. We didn't even talk about Nico,
I mean,
really.
y'all don't have any. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, you guys have terrific players, but those said terrific players are not young guys. We're not talking about Victor
Well,
Wembanyama who's
You
21.
Luka Doncic is 25. What are you talking about?
I'm saying no. I'm saying I'm making a
Got
comparison.
DeAndre. We got
Listen. I'm saying I'm making a
AR.
comparison when we're talking about the Mavericks. The
Oh, okay,
Mavericks.
yeah, yeah. I don't
I'm
care about
saying
them.
they're not like Victor Wembanyama who's 21. Like they are
Yeah,
a decade and some change older than on average. A lot of those top tier players are a decade or so older
yeah,
than
for
Victor
sure.
Wembanyama. So that's a different body type, whether you're in shape or not. It's a different body type of that decade that you have in your 20s, as we both well know,
Oh
versus
yeah,
being
yeah,
in
yeah,
your 30s or
yeah.
40s.
Well, or
So
40s
or
for me,
40s
young
for
ladies
for
and
for
gentlemen.
some
But
for some folks for some
yeah,
folks here. So so but yeah, man, like hopefully they're able to figure out a solution. For me, as I said, I mean, I agree with I understand what you're saying in terms of the style of play, but I feel like it also could be resolved too in us seeing less of it by them cutting back on some of what we had in the season. Because I mean, like, even to your point of the style of play, we had players like that, maybe 5-10 years. Well, I guess, yeah, when we're talking about prior to the pandemic, I guess this you can say about roughly starting about 10 years ago, we had players like that did a lot of step backs, and they would last most of the season. So like
hmm
I feel
but
like it's
they would famously all peter out in the playoffs because
they would. They
your body
would.
can't
I'll give you
keep
that.
up with
They
that.
would. They
Their
would. I'll
bodies
give
will
you that.
peter out.
I'll give you that. So maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe it's the style of play, and it's further exasperated by the
All the
increase in
games.
games.
Yeah.
So
So also question. So since we're on
answer
style of
maybe.
play,
Yes.
with LeBron returning and the Lakers being
Oh
the
my
third seed,
gosh.
do you think we're gonna make the finals again this year, ladies and gentlemen?
Nah. Nah.
We got DeAndre, he killing. We
I'm
got
gonna be I'm
AR
gonna be
and
Brandon.
Luca,
Hey
they
look. I'm gonna
killing.
be Brandon. I'm gonna be Brandon Damas here for a second and say that while you guys do look solid, I'm not gonna lie, you guys look good. I'm
hmm
gonna say that it's gonna honestly come down to injuries, and based on what we're seeing trend wise with the nature just of the conversation we just had, I don't see your team making it through all of that. I don't see Doncic, making it through all of that.
The boy looks
And
felt though. He
I don't
looks
think he's
strong.
even with him being in shape, because it's the first time, let's be honest, that he's used to being in shape in a good long while. I think now that he's quote unquote in shape, he may overdo it because of the fact that he's finally in shape, and may try to do a little more than he needs to do. And so I feel like he's going to end up sustaining an injury. And I could be wrong about this, folks, but we could always do a rewind of this, months down the road. But I don't
Yeah.
feel like I feel like injury is going to plague y'all going into the postseason. And I know it's not really saying much, considering the conversation that we've been having with the nature of trends that we're seeing in the NBA. But when I'm thinking of teams that are versatile, that are deep. Obviously, and this is not me being on the bandwagon, but it's just based on how deep the team is. I feel I can see the Thunder being there. I can even see the Nuggets being there because they, with the moves that they made over the year, I feel like they have gotten substantially better from where they were last season. Uh, but I feel like teams like the Clippers, you know, I can't see them, getting anywhere. The Pacers are already plagued with injuries. I mean, obviously they're already plagued with, the major injury to their franchise player, which is why we're kind of seeing them in a rebuild year this year. We also have the issue with the Boston Celtics because they don't have Jason Tatum. But from what I understand, Jason Tatum might be ahead of schedule. Going for this season. So maybe we might see him sooner than we might than folks might have anticipated. But I feel like it's not going to be enough of a return that will allow them to, make a run this season. I am very interested in the Pistons though, because like when we're talking about the Pistons, I just find it surreal that the number of losses that the team has is actually the number for their star player. Like they have 2 losses on the season, and I don't know if it's luck that's going on there or something happening in the air where the number of losses that they have thus far equals their franchise players' number. He's actually, obviously one of the main reasons why they have had this turnaround this season, which is, if let me say this: it was not on my bingo card to have the Pistons be 11-2 at
Not
all.
at all. Not at all.
Based on who they have in their lineup and who they have on paper, did not have it on my bingo card for them to be 11-2 at all. So they're playing way outside of expectations of where people anticipated they would be. I feel like people would have thought that they would be solid, like a 500 team, but not,
Not
taking the
top of
league
the
by storm
East.
and being 11
Yeah.
and 2. So yeah. But any other thoughts? Maybe some other ones that we didn't touch on that you wanted to shed some light on, Spills, before we go.
Oh, one more thing about LeBron.
Oh boy.
Chris Paul is retiring at the end of this season. And he also is playing like an old man. So they don't let him play hardly ever. So he's like averaging 1 assist a game. LeBron is going to be number 2 on that assist list by the end of this season. So number 1 in points, number 2 in assists. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I feel
Hey,
like
look,
that's an
I'll give props
argument.
to props to
That's the
dude.
Wayne Gretzky argument. That's the Wayne Gretzky argument. I'm the number 1 passer and the number 1 scorer. That's how I do it. Because technically, we could say that some of them points that your boy John Stockton got, some of them assists wasn't real assists, but I'm just gonna
Wow.
say they said that they wasn't.
Wow.
They said that they
Blasphemy.
wasn't.
Blasphemy,
That's
folks.
not blasphemy.
Blasphemy. But okay.
Blasphemy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll save that for another day because we won't
Yeah.
have to go down that rabbit hole. I don't know if I can agree with you on that hot take. But be that as it may, what are your thoughts on, for those of you out there, of what's happening in the NBA trend wise with all these injuries? Do you feel like it is, something within both of the, points that me and Spills made? Do you feel like it's a combination of them? Maybe there's one that we didn't touch on that you guys wanted to shed light on. You can let us know in the comments. Again, thoughts on Rodney Rogers passing away. What was your favorite moment of his on his career? Maybe with Wake Forest or with any of those, some of the teams that he's been a part of. Because as I said, he was an NBA journeyman. But also, in that time, quite an effective player. As I said, he was a former sixth man of the year. And also thoughts on some of the other teams, whether we're talking about the Lakers, where you see them going, whether we're talking about the Pistons. Do you think that's going to be sustainable? Do you think they're going to fall off? Or even, I mean, we kind of touched on it briefly, the Pacers and them, kind of taking a plummet because of, their franchise player being, out this season. Let us know down below. That's going to do it here for this week in pop culture. As always, I want to thank you guys out there for watching us live. And then also for those of you who, even if you don't watch us live, you watch us after the fact when you have the opportunity to after we've aired. And with that, I'm going to punt it over to Spills. Spills, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Truly Spill on Instagram. But I have a fun fact. Did you know that Thanksgiving is the biggest home fire day of the year? You know what that means, ladies and gentlemen? That means you take that turkey out today. Let that turkey fall all the way out. Don't think that you're just going to take that turkey out on Wednesday evening. It's going to be ready at 3 o'clock when you want to fry it. You need to let the turkey get completely thawed out, and then you need to cook the turkey in the fryer. And then don't put too much grease because that's a fire hazard, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm just doing PSAs all day today to help you to enjoy Turkey Day. Thank you. Back to you, Brandon.
So I want to thank Chef Spills as always for being a part of being part of the show, and sharing his points. I don't talk about it here enough, but truly appreciate him being on because he's one of the few people that I know that when it comes to talking about various components of pop culture, there are a few that I know that can, do so. Whether we're talking about sports folks, whether we're talking about film and TV, whether we're talking about games, you have some folks there that, may not be sports folks. So, their forte is film and TV and gaming, and that's fine. But, when we're talking about this show, we need folks here that can run the gamut and talk all of that stuff. So, again, thanks to him. My name, of course, is Brandon Troy, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me, as you can see down below, at Brandon Troy ENT on X, and then Brandon Troy _ENT on Instagram, on IG. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and
Peace,
see
peace,
you soon,
peace.
folks. Peace.